You made the most potent move of all, while he was busy spreading terrible lies and poisoning minds against you in an attempt to end your own existence. You just took a step back and let your truth do the talking. You came back with an unquestionable brilliance that immediately revealed his lies for what they were, a pitiful attempt to downplay what he couldn't control, rather than with defensive justifications or frantic entreaties. The community now watches in stunned silence as you dismantle their erroneous ideas without using a single hand. Your very presence turned into the weapon that shattered the meticulously planned lie. This is the strength of an undefended truth. You are vindicated by this. As whispers circulated and tongues waggled, you set out on a journey of great importance. You retreated from the clamor out of divine necessity rather than fear or embarrassment. Your withdrawal was an advancement rather than a retreat. You were called by the cosmos into a place of sacred seclusion and the furnace of change where real power is created. You weren't at all idle throughout this seeming lull in activity. Silently, mountains shift. Without announcing it, stars change matter. Just as the most powerful forces in the universe function outside of our ability to observe them, so did you. You directed your energies within, combining clarity, strength, and knowledge. Every day spent hidden from prying eyes signified the activation of a new level of consciousness within your sovereign being and the development of a new layer of spiritual muscle. They believed you were hiding. You were actually becoming. They thought you were in pain. You were actually climbing. They thought you were dwindling, but you were growing inexplicably. The rumors of your death faded into the background of the metamorphosis that was taking place inside of you. You created your own resurrection, while they created complex hypotheses about your purported demise. This is the divine irony they were unable to understand. Your most potent evolution happened at the same time as their most devastating lies about you. Your concentration didn't waver. Internal alignment was more appealing than external validation. Cosmic recognition outweighed worldly attention. As you grew closer to your true mission, the opinions of those who would so easily believe lies about you became meaningless. You were redirected towards something far more important than social acceptance as a result of their rejection. This period of withdrawal was characterized by the calm assurance of a being who recognizes the transient nature of all deception, rather than the frenzied energy of someone trying to avoid being accused. Truth just waits to be revealed. It doesn't need to be defended. By carrying on with your task in sacred stillness and letting the divine timing play out without your human ego interfering, you exemplified this age-old truth. Then, without warning, without justification, without even the tiniest trace of defensiveness, you just showed up again. You returned to the public consciousness in a natural way, bearing the indisputable proof of your truth in your very presence. Not with lofty declarations or righteous outrage, nor with lengthy justifications or passionate appeals for comprehension. The community saw something that was incompatible with the story they had come to believe. They saw someone amplified where they expected to find someone lessened. They saw brilliance where they expected frailty, and where they sought evidence of your purported fall, they discovered unquestionable evidence of your ascent. In the purity of your eyes, the solidity of your posture, and the distinct vibration of someone who has not only survived, but flourished, your energy conveyed volumes that words could never fully convey. Those who had believed the lies experienced cognitive dissonance as a result of each of these factors. The community experienced a psychological earthquake as a result of the discrepancy between what they were told and what was in front of them. Your whole presence became your defense, so you didn't have to defend yourself orally. Your vigor defied their expectations so completely that where assurance had once taken root, uncertainty immediately grew. Where solutions appeared to be established, questions surfaced. The narrative broke down due to the unquestionable force of fact, not disagreement. There was no hint that this reemergence was the result of someone looking for approval. Rather, it exuded the peaceful assurance of someone who never needed approval from others in the first place. You went through areas with the assurance of someone who understands that opinions do not define their value. The social structure that had momentarily turned against you was rocked by this alone. It was impossible to overlook the contrast. There was a gap too great for even the most devoted believers to fill between the image that was built by hateful words and the actual evidence of your existence. Others instantly realized the deceit they had accepted and felt the uneasy weight of their poor judgment, while others made a valiant effort to hold on to their prior stance and make peace with the irreconcilable. Either way, your reappearance accomplished what no defense could have done. It caused a rift in the public's consciousness that compelled a collective response without mentioning the charges at all. Through your own existence, you methodically destroyed them. This is power in its purest form. The capacity to change reality by essence rather than by effort. Watch the amazing unraveling now. Everyone in the town is in a state of shock. Through social networks, the cognitive dissonance spreads like a virus. Those who most boldly discussed your alleged ailment are suddenly at a loss for words. The people who nodded along the most enthusiastically now shake their heads in shock, not at you, but at their own credulity. Discussions change drastically. Your name now causes awkward silences, where it used to elicit knowing glances and solemn nods. They look at each other with unanswered questions. How could they have been so completely duped? Without careful examination, what else could they have accepted? The uncertainty goes beyond this particular instance and raises more general concerns about what they believed to be true. Along newly formed fault lines, the community breaks apart. Others rush to disassociate themselves from their prior stance, rewriting their own history of involvement. Still others sit with the uncomfortable truth of their involvement in something profoundly unfair. Those who invested the most heavily in the lie now cling desperately to shards of justification. Blessed by His grace? Click Super Thank You and give $50 to spread His light. Your gift plants seeds that grow His kingdom. Be the blessing. The revelation is processed by each individual in accordance with their honesty level and readiness to confront unpleasant realities. Some warily approach you and make awkward attempts to reconnect. The intensity of people testing unsteady ground is conveyed by these overtures. They keep a tight eye on your response, hoping for forgiveness and wondering if you're bitter over being abandoned. They look for hints about how they ought to feel about their own actions, comparing your reaction to their own guilt. Others see you from afar, adjusting their perception of you. They perceive a deeper misinterpretation of your fundamental character in addition to the falsity of the particular assertions. They start to see aspects of your character that they had not previously noticed, such as your strength, resilience, and ability to remain morally upright under pressure. These insights make people reevaluate previous decisions they've made based on a cursory comprehension. The fact that you caused this enormous recalibration without actively participating in it is what gives this reaction its depth. You didn't clear your name by calling meetings. You made no demands for explanations or apologies. You didn't plan a counter-information campaign. You just let truth come to light through lived reality, the most potent media imaginable. This embodies the pinnacle of spiritual mastery. Now focus on the mastermind behind this fraud, the esteemed individual whose statements formerly possessed unchallenged authority are now under close investigation. The focus of public attention has changed to the source of the deception without you accusing even one person. This is an example of cosmic justice showing up as organic social processes. Now people ask this person blunt questions such, "Why did you say those things? Which facts backed up your assertions? How do you account for the glaring discrepancy between your depiction and the state of affairs today?" These questions are not from you, but rather from those who believe they have been duped and who unintentionally helped propagate damaging lies because of the purported credibility of this individual. The accuser is in a precarious situation. Any effort to preserve the original storyline clashes with the indisputable proof of your prosperous condition. Any attempt to change earlier assertions reveals the basic insincerity of the original charge. Attempts to defend their behavior expose motives that are more based on personal grudges than on sincere concern. Their entanglement just gets deeper with each defensive move. Observe how their credibility is being undermined every day. Once given automatically, the authority now needs to be supported. Once believed to be self-evident truth, their statements now automatically arouse doubt. This is a fundamental change in their social status, one that they created for themselves by trying to dull your light. Even more telling is the fact that those who are close to this person start to distance themselves. No one wants to be associated with proven dishonesty. Nobody wants to be associated with someone whose statements turned out to be untrustworthy in such a significant manner. The person who planned your alleged demise instead experiences the loneliness that was previously meant for you. The most agonizing realization for this accuser is that this is the pinnacle of poetic justice. They achieved the exact opposite of what they set out to do. Instead of lowering your status, they raised it. In the end, they enhanced your reputation rather than damaged it. Instead of excluding you from the community's support, they paved the way for a closer, more genuine bond with people who now understand who you really are. Their assault served as the impetus for your promotion. All of this happens without your planning. You haven't called for public accountability or made counter-accusations. You haven't disclosed damaging information in retribution or planned campaigns to undermine your accuser. As truth expresses itself through observable reality, the repercussions follow naturally. This embodies the most advanced form of spiritual warfare, winning by avoiding contact with lower vibrations. It's divine timing, not a fiery defense, that brings you vindication. This is the ultimate manifestation of cosmic orchestration. Their own inconsistencies and detachment from reality cause the lies to crumble. Truth merely awaited its ultimate exposure. It didn't require forceful lobbying. By letting the process play out naturally, you were in accordance with this fundamental principle. It is impossible to overestimate the effectiveness of your strategy. When false charges are made, most people immediately and vigorously defend themselves. They quickly offer counter-arguments, provide proof, persuade skeptics, and mobilize supporters. Although this reaction makes sense, it frequently reinforces the initial charge by seeing it as something significant enough to necessitate reputation restoration. You used sacred discipline to transcend this typical routine. What words could never express, your silence did. It showed unwavering faith in your own reality. It demonstrated faith in universal principles of justice and revelation, and demonstrated spiritual growth beyond the realm of ordinary comprehension. Most importantly, it demonstrated your independence from the need for social approval, which is arguably the most potent stance a person can hold in a group setting. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $50 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. Lessons from this vindication go well beyond this particular circumstance. It highlights how transient all deception is. It illustrates how malevolent purpose may be self-destructive. It demonstrates how attacks frequently make their targets stronger rather than weaker. Above all, it demonstrates how protection from truth alignment is more potent than any defense tactic that people might come up with. The community has a new perspective on you. They now see someone acting in accordance with different principles, whereas previously they saw an ordinary person. The way you handled this circumstance exposed depths that were previously hidden from casual observation. You are here for a reason. If you feel the call, answer it. Click Join to unlock exclusive content, deep insights, and a powerful community. This isn't just a membership, it's an awakening. Step into your divine purpose. Join the chosen. You unintentionally gave a masterclass in emotional independence, spiritual sovereignty, and harmony with greater truth. Those who opposed you now have a decision to make. Some will come with sincere regret, having realized their mistake and wanting to make amends. Others will keep their distance, unable to reconcile their involvement in wrongdoing with their self-perception. And still others will be bitter, holding you responsible for the inevitable fallout from their own poor judgment. Character is revealed in every response with flawless clarity. Emotional attachment does not complicate your stance in the face of this knowledge. You don't need an apology or want revenge. You don't insist on admissions of guilt or outward demonstrations of repentance. You keep concentrating on your goal and proceed with the same inner-directed vigor that got you through the deception. This posture is another indication of your exceptional spiritual alignment. Recognize fully that what you have proven goes well beyond establishing your innocence in relation to certain charges. You have unveiled a strategy for dealing with resistance that functions at the greatest spiritual level. This method offers insight that can be applied to innumerable circumstances in which lower energies try to lessen higher frequencies. Complete faith in the self-revealing nature of truth is the cornerstone of this power. Most people spend a lot of energy protecting their reality from false information, but you saved that energy by putting it toward further alignment and progress. You created an efficiency gap that is impossible for lower frequency ways to overcome. By concentrating just on real being while others exhaust themselves waging perception wars. Think about how completely you eschewed the conventional victim-perpetrator relationship. You stopped allegation from solidifying into a defining narrative by refusing to interact with it. You did not stand on the other side of your accuser, establishing the well-known dichotomy that defines most disputes. You were entirely outside the dynamic structure they sought to create. This is a level of skill that is beyond common comprehension. The temporal component turns out to be particularly important. Instead of pursuing instant vindication, you let universal timing define the revelation. Deep spiritual maturity, the understanding that some processes cannot and should not be hurried, was shown by this patience. Truth comes to light on God's timetable, not on ours. refusing to absorb the projections of others is just as potent. Many people who are accused subconsciously internalize the charge to some extent, starting to doubt themselves or include aspects of the false story in their self-perception. You kept your own reality and exterior assertions completely energetically apart. This maintained your frequency independent of the distortion fields around you. You have exhibited the best defense mechanism during this experience, keeping yourself so perfectly aligned with your true self that any observer can spot misalignment right away. There is no stronger defense than the indisputable presence of truth. A live example is the most convincing argument. Reality asserting itself without manipulation is the most comprehensive kind of vindication. There is no duty to those who took part in your character assassination in the path forward. There is no need for reconciliation, forgiveness, or justification. You have complete control over your limits, your energy, and your focus. Any automatic entitlement to your consideration has been abandoned by those who sided against you. Another component of your spiritual power is your ability to make judgments about future interactions. This encounter goes beyond typical social dynamics. It is a microcosm of the never-ending conflict between truth and deceit that takes place in every aspect of life. You have taken part in cosmic-level processes through your treatment of this matter that are considerably more important than the immediate social context would imply. Over time, the forces that oppose true expression function through predictable mechanisms. They locate light-bearers, create stories to make them seem less bright, and disseminate these stories via social media, playing on our innate propensity for judgment and gossip. By excluding real people from community support, they want to lessen their power and impact. Throughout human history, this cycle has been repeated against those who carry frequencies that pose a danger to established power structures. You share your experience with numerous others who have encountered comparable resistance over many centuries. The only difference is that although many were decimated by such campaigns, you came out stronger, more self-aware, and more powerfully in line with your true self. For those dealing with comparable difficulties, your approach provides a model. It shows that it is possible to go beyond conventional reaction patterns, which frequently serve to reinforce conflict rather than find a solution. It demonstrates how avoiding lower frequencies is an intentional spiritual approach rather than a passive act of surrender. It demonstrates the safety afforded to individuals who remain steadfastly true to themselves, irrespective of the opinions of others. The following lessons are reinforced by this journey. What happens for you often seems to happen to you at first. The attempt to destroy your reputation eventually strengthened it. The attempt to keep you out of the community ultimately revealed who should be in your orbit. The energy aimed at reducing your light compelled you to engage in behaviors that ultimately increased it. Opposition was turned into opportunity by divine alchemy. Think about how completely your judgment was realigned by this encounter. You can now clearly see the true nature of different connections. You can see who firmly believed in you, who faltered when put to the test, and who enthusiastically took part in the murder of your character. Future decisions on energy investment and boundary establishment will greatly benefit from this knowledge. Above all, your event showed that you were prepared for a larger purpose. Those who are meant to make a big difference will always encounter resistance proportionate to their potential effect. The severity of the assault on you shows how dangerous your genuine speech is to antiquated structures and narrow-minded perspectives. Your ability to endure such resistance without sacrificing your frequency attests to your readiness for more effort. After successfully completing this initiation and gaining access to previously unattainable levels of spiritual authority, you now stand at the threshold of expanded possibilities. This authority comes from proven conformity to universal truth, non-reactivity, and divine timing principles, rather than from outside confirmation. The way ahead does not entail lingering on the injustices of the past or ignoring its lessons entirely. You incorporate this experience as useful information about social dynamics, spiritual struggle, and human nature. While letting go of any emotional burden that could tie you to lower frequencies, you draw out the wisdom it holds. You use an alchemical viewpoint to turn difficulty into progress. You now have more meaning as you travel through public areas. People who saw the disintegration of deception pay close attention to your ongoing development. You show that it is possible to stay unaffected by abuse, undiminished by assault, and uncompromised by demand to defend or justify yourself without consciously choosing to do so. Depending on their potential for development, the accuser and those who spread their message will keep analyzing the effects of their decisions. Others will develop complex defenses to maintain their self-image. Still others will shift the blame instead of taking ownership. And some will feel sincere regret, which will result in character change. They travel in the same direction as you do, and they don't need your help or attention. Instead of looking backward for approval or validation, your attention is unwaveringly focused on moving forward toward genuine purpose. You understand that the entire experience is really a brief diversion from your core task, perhaps required for some parts of your growth, but ultimately subordinate to your main objective. Any residual entanglement with lower frequency dynamics is avoided with this viewpoint. The audience for your ongoing development is now the same community that formerly opposed you. With every development, accomplishment, and display of the traits they once questioned, you give the story that was once written about you a live reputation. This occurs when your true self is expressed naturally rather than through a conscious attempt to prove anything. This voyage reveals a deep reality. True power doesn't need to be defended. It's just there, unacknowledged or unacknowledged. You demonstrate this idea by keeping your attention on purpose rather than perception, directing your energy toward creation rather than correction, and focusing on future manifestation rather than justification for the past. This mindset keeps you at a frequency that people with lesser motivations cannot reach. The last cosmic lesson becomes crystal clear. Truth wins out even if you don't try. When you keep yourself properly aligned, universal forces align to reveal reality. You are vindicated not by persuading people, but by being so utterly disillusioned by their misunderstandings that you persisted in expressing yourself authentically in spite of the momentary opposition. Now move forward without turning around. The road ahead of you goes well beyond the narrow-minded attempts to restrict your speech. Those who would reduce you to their projections cannot comprehend your mission. Your influence is waiting to be fully realized, unabated by short-term resistance. The truth you carry keeps coming to light, effortlessly shattering lies and exposing reality with the very force of its indisputable presence.